Okay, let's talk about deprogramming, and this is largely deprogramming from a Christian worldview, which many of us, even if we did not get raised in a church, we probably got raised in a Western society where this worldview is prevalent, and in most cases we need to deprogram from it. It's what we've been raised with, it's what we've been taught since we were tiny little babies, and that programming gets ingrained and it kind of instills certain modes of thinking, attitudes and such things which we do need to deprogram from if we want to progress in a spiritual, magical life. Now, you will find that a lot of people who are in a spiritual life still have that programming, and it's not a problem for them. They will just continue with it. They still operate from that Christian worldview, even though they say they're not Christians. I'll get a bit more into this just now, but what really is deprogramming? Deprogramming is taking the patterns of our thoughts, patterns of our feelings towards things, and analyzing them, first of all. And then once we've analyzed them, is to determine whether they are beneficial to the progress of our own path. If they are not, we then need to deprogram them. And this means unraveling that patterning in order to free ourselves from it, and then we can start building our own personal patterns based on our own personal viewpoints, the direction we want to go in, and that direction is obviously going to change as time goes by. So learning how to deprogram is quite a handy little trick that we can incorporate throughout our entire lifetime. Because we go through, even if we pick up on a magical path and we start walking along this path, we're going to read books, read blogs, watch YouTube videos, all of these things, and we're going to pick up certain information. And at a later stage, we may pick up different information which contradicts this. And when that happens, we need to then we obviously need to do research on that and find out which is the truer path for ourselves in this regard, in whatever this information related to. And the difficulty here is that if we have been walking down a path and getting this information for a period of time, it starts to become ingrained. We start to believe it. It's kind of like the person who just steps onto a path, reads their first book, and it becomes their Bible. And anybody who contradicts them, they will tell them they're wrong because my book says this. And it can be a book on magic, it can be a book on anything, but that becomes their Bible. And contrary to anything that is written or said in that book is wrong for them. At a later stage, they may start to think a bit more, might start to question, and realize that maybe this isn't actually right for them. So they need to then, but that's become ingrained, so they need to then unravel those patterns, and they need to deprogram and start shifting their focus. And it doesn't need to go from one extreme to the other. It's more of a shifting away from this deprogramming, from this thing that we've become ingrained in, and start to question it. And once we start to question it, we can then shift away more, and we can start to create new patterns. And again, as I said, once we start creating these new patterns, we have to keep questioning. Don't just go on faith, don't just go blindly into this and create these new patterns because that's the new thing. Question as you go, keep questioning, and these things will not become as ingrained as they should be. Once you find something which is solid for you, completely and utterly solid, then you can follow that, and you can ingrain yourself at that stage. Again, at a later stage, you might find that you change again, and you need to deprogram and continue, and this whole process keeps continuing. But the difficulty is that a lot of people who come onto these spiritual and magical paths are still ingrained with this Christian worldview of right and wrong. Not just, the entire worldview is right and yours is wrong, but they are right and you are wrong because you said something which contradicted their worldview, even though that person may hold the same worldview. It's just this whole battle of right and wrong, what's right and what's wrong, and what's black and what's white. And there are certain things which we are told are evil. So it becomes this, the whole Christian worldview is just this battle. It's just this war against left and right and black and white and right and wrong, and it's really ridiculous. But anyway, all right. So what we've picked up, what we find now, is a lot of people, this has been going on for years and years and years, but I think possibly more recently, because I think they've become a bit more apparent, are the edgelords. And I find the edgelords hysterical, but I think what I don't know if they don't realize it or what other people don't realize, but these edgelords who are going on about Satan and the infernal armies from hell, and they're going to come and fight this war on earth against Christianity and the right-hand path, and this is a real thing for them and a real thing for a lot of people. But again, you've got the infernal armies from hell. Hell is a place that Christians created. The fiery brimstone and stuff, and coming to fight this war against the right-hand path, separating the left-hand path and the right-hand path distinctly. They are left-hand path. They will not be right-hand path, because right-hand path is Christianity, and it's all of this stuff, and it's a Christian worldview. That's really what it is. They may not be Christian, they may not think of themselves as Christian, but they have a Christian worldview because they are battling this war between left and right, and they are distinguishing themselves on this one side, the left side, and the right side is wrong. So even these edgelords that carry on about all this stuff, they have a lot of deprogramming to do, a shitload, probably more than a lot of us. But anyway, and they're sitting there and spouting all this stuff and don't even realize it. So when it comes to deprogramming, it's a constant thing. It really is a constant thing, and it'll probably be a constant thing for the rest of your life. I still have to deprogram a lot, and I've done a lot already, but I'm still deprogramming from certain things, certain patterns that were ingrained in me. It may have just been things I was told when I was a child that got so deeply ingrained. I get to points where I think I've deprogrammed from it, and then something pops up and I realize, still got some more work to do. So don't think that it's just a once-off thing and all of a sudden you're free from it all. It is a constant process. It's the same with shadow work. In fact, it probably falls into the whole shadow work experience. But this, I think when we consider things which we were raised and told that were evil, like Satan, Lucifer, these have been ingrained. They have been thumped into us since we were little children, and those influential ages when we get told things and we just believe them, and we just keep believing and believing, and as we grow up it becomes more and more and more ingrained. So it does take a long time for us to get out of those things, but just the feeling of how does Satan, if you say the word Satan out loud, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel guilty? Does it make you feel like you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing? Or does it make you feel hatred towards a group of people who think that Satan is evil? Even that hatred itself is still programming, because you've now switched from what you considered to be Satan being evil, because that's what you were taught, to now thinking that Satan is not evil and these people are arseholes, they don't know what they're talking about, they are wrong. Christian worldview. Doesn't matter what somebody else thinks, it matters what you think. But that hatred that you have for that group is just a reaction to the whole process of healing. So carry on doing that work, but don't stop there. Don't think that just because now you think that Satan is not evil, these people are wrong, that still needs some healing. You still need some healing, go through the whole process. So carry on doing it, keep on doing it, until you get to a point where Satan is just not even an entity, it's a concept. For many, Satan is an entity, a separate entity from ourselves, and is a particular deity, particular god or goddess, who reigns over the earth and looks after the earth, loves man, except for the people that don't like him, of course. But it's just, there's this whole concept that you have to come to understand yourself and define yourself. Same with Lucifer. Lucifer is the light bearer, and Lucifer is found in all cultures and traditions. Every single one of them. There is somewhere in there a light bringer or a light bearer. It's really a title, and it can stand for a lot of different deities, gods, goddesses, angelic beings, demonic beings, whatever, as long as it's a light bringer and it brings the light, it brings gnosis, it brings knowledge to humanity, to people, to us, then it's probably a light bearer, and therefore it's a Lucifer. But we get taught that Lucifer is this entity which is coming with the silver tongue and blah blah blah, who's coming to speak, fill your head with evil. It's one person's worldview, one person's understanding, well, many people, but it's one group of people who believe this, and they keep teaching it to other people and they believe it. But how do you feel when you say these words? The best example, and probably one of the best ways to teach this, or how to deprogram, was mentioned in Paul Hussen's book, which I have now completely forgotten the title of. I keep doing that lately. I'm sure Mercury's still doing something. I'll have to check with Kai again. What was I saying? Oh yes. So one of the best examples of this deprogramming techniques is to recite the Lord's Prayer backwards, and you can also recite the Lord's Prayer backwards whilst walking backwards around a church 3 times. But just reciting the Lord's Prayer backwards, it's considered to be blasphemous, and therefore when you do it, how do you feel? Now, a lot of people will think that doing this technique, doing this practice of reciting the Lord's Prayer backwards is purely just giving the Christians the finger. It's actually not. A lot of people use it for that, obviously, but it really is a deprogramming technique, because when you do it, how do you feel? Recite the Lord's Prayer backwards and really examine how you feel. Do you feel guilt? If you do, you're still programmed in that Christian worldview, because we're taught that this is blasphemous and therefore we cannot do it. If we do it, we are being evil, we are being wrong, we are doing something wrong against God. So if you feel guilt, you're still programmed, it's still ingrained in you. So you carry on, and at a later stage you do it again. As you progress more and more along this spiritual or magical path, try it again. How do you feel? Maybe you feel a little less guilty. Eventually that guilt kind of goes, and you kind of sit there and realize it's just words. That's all it is, just a bunch of words, that meant something to me once, and they probably still do mean something to you. If you are ceremonial magician, if you are in practicing Hermeticism or Kabbalah or something, then the Lord's Prayer is a very powerful and prominent prayer, and it can still be used as that. But we're trying to deprogram ourselves from this guilt that we have and move ourselves along this path and free ourselves in order to experience new things, in order to take in new knowledge. Because as long as we are still programmed and ingrained with these guilt processes, these guilt feelings, we are not free to explore and to experience, because something will come along, because it's magic, it's spirituality, it's something which is not part of the Christian ideology and the Christian worldview, and therefore we're going to have this thing in the back of our heads that's saying we shouldn't be doing this, it's wrong, it's against God. So we have to free ourselves from that guilt, and in order to do that you can take all of these techniques and like reciting the Lord's Prayer backwards and continue to work with it until you get to the point where it really is just words. Then what you find is when you do something like the Kabbalistic cross, which is basically the Lord's Prayer, then you can do it with power, with confidence, with, you're not doing something which is considered evil by one group of people, which you have been programmed into. You've disconnected yourself from that, and you can now do this with power. Because a lot of Christians think that the Jews are evil. They still think that during the Friday Sabbath they worship babies to their God. Some of the stuff that these people come up with is incredible. It's insane. But there are still people who believe these things out there. They are dangerous. But we've just got to really move ourselves away from that guilt, untangle ourselves from the guilt, and then we can be free to explore other things, and be free to explore it from a basis which isn't confined to any particular thing. This is very much in lines with chaos magic. We suspend belief, completely and utterly suspend belief of everything. We do not believe in anything, and then we pick one belief up, one worldview up, and we immerse ourselves in it and become that. And for a period of time we are that, whether it is a Christian, whether it is a Buddhist, whether it is a Luciferian, whether it is a traditional witch, whatever it is, we immerse ourselves completely in this thing, and we become that tradition, that person, that whatever it is, and we explore it completely. And then when we're done with that, we suspend belief again, completely wash ourselves of belief. But you can only do that if you don't have those ingrained guilt, that ingrained guilt, or anything which is ingrained. Because as long as you're still entangled in that worldview, in any worldview, or entangled in the guilt, entangled in whatever it is, you are entangled with it. And you cannot suspend belief completely, because you're still in the mesh, you're still in the clutches. Alright, so this is really what deprogramming is all about, is freeing ourselves from all of that belief and all of that guilt, and untangling or detangling ourselves from all of that, so that we can be free to go and explore. And as I said, it really is a lifetime process. The earlier we start, the easier it would be, but a lot of us only come to this when we are in middle age. So if you are watching this and you are still quite young, start doing your deprogramming now, and get yourself free, and you can explore more. Okay, anyway, I am going to ramble, so have a good one. Thanks for watching. and I'll see you next time. Cheers for now. Bye bye.